Hello and welcome to the Birchal Podcast. My name is Emily Macfarlane. I am your host, and today we have with us Harris Meitanis from Acta. He's the founder of the platform that is revolutionising talent booking industry by providing a central marketplace that guarantees direct access to talent and their booking agents. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for coming. So I just want to get a little bit of an idea of what inspired you to create Acta and what was the initial problem that you were looking to solve?
Yeah, well, the industry sort of evolved in a way where leads and opportunities come in a variety of different ways. There's never been a centralized way or there's never been a directory in Australia. The age of information has greatly assisted mankind in many, many ways. Google being probably the best example of that, being able to access things in a quick way that you can sort of market research and choose the direction that you want to go in. With the entertainment industry though, especially with sourcing talent, it's actually created a bit of a minefield where people have deliberately created profiles for artists that they don't actually represent, and sort of created unnecessary steps that create their own problems in between bookers and the talent, and sometimes even in the end client that the bookers represent. So, Acta's trying to sort of transparently let the light in, I guess, and create a harmonious environment for everyone to directly communicate with each other.
Right. And what were the key challenges that you faced when you were actually starting up the platform?
We've got between everybody involved, there's a collective of about 30 years of deep industry knowledge, and we've all worn various hats within the industry. So we all knew the pain points of everyone that has a different role to play, from managers and agents to talent, represented and unrepresented, production people, caterers, security, venues. So we all sort of knew everyone's pain point. So we sought to build a type of harmonious environment, an ecosystem where everybody gets what they want individually, and that way no one has, a fear of being part of something that gives them exactly what they need themselves. So for instance, with represented talent, they've always had to lose commissions to every service that they've ever had. They hire managers, they hire agents, they hire lawyers, accountants, they're always paying for that. And if an opportunity or an event came through to them, there would always be this understanding that they would lose a slice of their performance fee. Well, Acta addressed that and said, well, we want to be the first ever commissionless service for represented talent. And if we're going to be commissionless to represented talent, we need to be commissionless to unrepresented talent.
Right.
So let's create something where the clients can directly communicate with either the talent themselves or their managers and agents. And that's just one example, probably the biggest example, because without that foundation, you don't have over 95% of Australia's represented talent featured on a platform like Acta does. So we needed to give represented talent the ability to upload their own contracts, upload their own invoices, be completely commissionless. But if we're going to do that for represented talent, then for unrepresented talent, let's give them something that allows them to automatically populate their own administrative tasks, instantly create contracts, instantly create invoices in their name using their bank account details and their ABN, give them free public liability insurance, give them everything that a manager or an agent would give represented talent, give it to unrepresented talent. And on the other side, let's help the bookers do their job better. Let's give them a directory that is free to access, that hosts everyone in Australia, saves them the time from even going anywhere near Google. They can just go to Acta and find who they want directly. And let's give them the tools that they need as event bookers, as talent bookers, depending on whether they come from the marketing and advertising industry, or whether they come from local or federal government, or whether they come from charity, or corporate events. Everyone sort of has their little needs. So we've addressed each one separately and sort of try to create this harmonious ecosystem that everyone can thrive in.
Right. And how do you vet talent that's coming onto the platform? How do you ensure that they're not bots or people pretending to be somebody else?
Well, it's a bit hard to be a bot when you're a celebrity, but there's a finite amount of agencies and managers in Australia of represented talent, be that sporting, media, comedy, music, and we know all those agents and we know all those managers. And it was just a matter of explaining the problem that, they feel the problem themselves. They know that a lot of the opportunities that are coming to them are coming second and third hand and not primary opportunities. So they were very welcoming of the technology because it bottlenecks all of the leads directly to them. But we started adding agents and managers that represented talent themselves, and then obviously the bigger agents and managers represent multiple artists or multiple talent. So we're proud to now have created enough opportunities for them to experience the platform, to have entire stables of talent from major agencies, everyone from the Mushroom Booking Agency all the way through to Profile Talent. Some of the biggest agencies in Australia with many artists are featured. In terms of vetted, unrepresented talent, it's just a matter of knowing the best, 10, 20 performers in every state for different genres of either music or performance. We've got 25 years of booking talent in this country for different types of events across the meetings, incentives, conferences and event space, even touring. So we sort of knew the 10 or 15 or 20 best cover bands in each state, magicians, speakers, performance dancers. So we reached out to them because we already knew them from having booked them for the last 25 years as curators. Now I'm really proud to say that there's over 2,500 artists and talent available for acta, on acta. And what's most proud to us is that we've been able to achieve Australia's first ever true industry collaborative alliance of a directory that people can go to. And it's not something where people opt in or opt out. It's a factual marketplace where people can communicate openly and directly with the actual talent or their representatives.
Yeah, right. So you're saying that the platform is commissionless. In terms of your business model, where does the revenue come from?
Yeah, so the foundation always had to be free to talent. And because I've been on the talent side, I've produced music, I've managed talent, I've represented talent as a lawyer and as an agent, I knew how important that needed to be. You can't expect agents and managers and lawyers and talent that do business a certain way to conform to a new ideal. We wanted them to be able to use their own agreements and their own invoices. And we didn't want to be involved in that. We wanted to create more of a virtual boardroom, a communication device that allowed people a single interface to do their job better. But in doing so, we had to create so much value for the talent booker that saved them so much time and so much money that they would gladly prefer to do business this way than the way that they traditionally did business. And traditionally, they would just Google. 90% of people, our research has shown that 90% of people that book talent in any market don't know where the talent actually come from. They can Google and go to social media pages or they can try to ask people that they know, but rarely will they actually find the talent themselves or the representative if they are represented. So the first thing was to build a directory that hosted everybody. And that presented its own problems because we had to then go to the talent and say, hey, forget about all of these other places that you're on either with your permission or without your permission. Let's build something that is an Australian alliance that features everyone together and supports this instead of Google or anything else. And then the second thing was to give those types of bookers the necessary tools that they needed within their, own issues that they have with booking talent. Marketing and advertising companies needed certain services, but live event producers needed other types of services. So there's a whole swathe of services that we provide bookers, from hosting documents to receiving instant notifications in real time to being able to add teammates. That sort of creates that virtual boardroom where people can just do things quickly and efficiently, and provide so much value for them and save them so much time that they would prefer to handle their booking this way.
And how do you envision your marketing strategy to ensure people know about acta instead of going directly to Google?
Yeah, that's the interesting irony, right? Like, do you try and defeat the misinformation on Google by advertising on Google yourself? In terms of the entertainment industry, from the meetings, incentives, conferences, events space, the people that work in local and federal government, marketing and advertising, in-house corporate event producers, bespoke event companies and agencies, all these people have varying degrees of knowledge of how to find talent. I've always felt that the best way to get a point across the different markets is by introducing a person from that market back into that market with this information. So I've, for a while now, we've earmarked a group of staff that are going to be starting with us very soon, that are specific BDM managers for markets that they've come from. So we have some great people that we've worked with in terms of hotels, and we've got some great people that we've worked with that have been part of the Australian event community as in-house event producers at agencies and conglomerates and government and Fed. So we're going to basically bring them into the fold. But also, I think it's quite a revolutionary business in terms of Australia's never had a directory. No one has ever joined forces like this before. And, we've got all these competitors in the market all willing to come together under this one umbrella because we all feel the same problem. And it's easy for me as a talent manager because right now I manage only Sushi Mango. So whenever I see Sushi Mango on another website, I'm instantly there saying, please remove them. You have no right to feature them. And then I'll send a cease and desist order. But you can't do that when, your artist is on 20, 30 websites and you send out 30 cease and desist letters, and then the next day you wake up and then they're on 20 other ones.
Right.
So that's been the most humbling experience by having everybody's support. And I think that's quite big news because, so I'm hoping, once our marketing in terms of why Google when you can acta, I think, that should resonate a lot with people. You wouldn't, if I could just explain, I can't find the words actually to give you how many people over the years of helping curate talent for their events, they've said to me, I've just spent an hour on Google trying to find someone, and someone gave me your number and they just said, call Harris, he'll be able to help you. acta is designed to remove Harris from the conversation.
Right.
So, I think that alone should resonate well enough with people to market on itself.
Absolutely. So I know that you're specialising in trying to streamline the booking, payment process, all of that. How do you envision AI playing into that?
AI is really exciting because I'm a curator. I'm a lawyer, but I grew up in the industry helping clients or bookers satisfy a certain brief, a certain budget, a certain demographic of guest and what they want to experience and what they want to receive. And they would give me all that, and then I would give them entertainment options because they had no idea who they were looking for.
Right.
And, you can be the best curator in the world, but you're never going to know the intricacies of 2,500 represented artists in Australia, where they're from, what their availability is like, how much they normally cost for different types of events. And then on top of that, be able to couple everything that's on Google about them and know all of it. So AI in terms of curation excites me so much, because you could, say I would love a female from the media industry that is passionate about equality in the workplace, that has children, and has an online presence and followers on this particular platform. I would need 2 or 3 hours to find that person, even with my knowledge. It really excites me that AI can use not only the knowledge that we've accumulated over 25 years, but also what's online to be able to assist them. In terms of payment protocols, I mean, right now, I've always just considered acta as a communication platform. That's why we're registered as one and trademarked as one. We allow people to organically and individually set their own payment terms and have their own invoices paid whichever way they want. And the platform assists them in sending out reminders depending on exactly their terms. So we don't really get involved in talent bookers paying the client. They do that organically between themselves, and they're both bound by our terms and services. In terms of the clients paying us, obviously the end game is to be a subscription service. We would love some type of intelligence to help us how to perfect that, and whether that's artificial or whether it's our own stuff. I'm sure that we'll be able to sort of evolve with how we do that. Right now, it's just a pay-as-you-play platform until we become ubiquitous enough to be able to offer subscriptions, which is what we'd love to do. We actually do have, I think, 12 subscribers that just love the platform so much that they would just rather pay a yearly subscription and use it whenever they want. And obviously, we want to sort of move and evolve in ways that people would prefer to handle themselves commercially. Like I said, I've always ever just dreamed about acta being a transparent, open, ethical, virtual boardroom communication portal. And that's why we've got the support of the people that we do, because we don't get involved in the commercialism.
Right. And when you talk about a subscription model, what does that look like?
So right now, we've got a couple of great clients that have had years and years of really successful events, but their pain points of what I spoke about before. This one great client called the Leadership Institute, they came on board I think about a year ago, and they just have constant speakers for different types of speaking engagements directed to different types of demographics. So they're always looking for talent, and they've never been able to have everybody under the one roof, and they're always spending hours in think tanks and on Google trying to figure out who should we book next. acta saved them all of that time. I think they mentioned to one of our staff the other day that they've saved 90% of the time that they normally spend on researching talent for their event. And obviously also they're dodging third-party information that's normally online regarding how to access this talent. So they're saving hard currency as well. When you propose a solution like that to people where they're saving, tens of thousands of dollars and hours of time, it's what acta was built for. So when they're turning over that many bookings, it makes commercial sense for them to insist on having a payment protocol that was more in line with subscription. And we always said that once we got over 1,000 bookings, I think we're at 750 contracts now. But once we got over 1,000 bookings, we would have subscription in place for multiple clients at the same time as when we marketed to the broader community. So I'm hoping that that all of that sort of knowledge that we've acquired during an extended beta helps us understand the way that people will be able to use acta in the best way possible, in line with their own sort of limitations and of booking talent. So I guess, the market will speak for itself in terms of where subscription lies. At the end of the day, though, I want it to be, we all want it to be so much more cost effective than what actually exists right now. Because right now, there are middlemen that don't need to be there. And there's money being taken off the table that should remain on the table. And all we desire for acta is to be paid to assist in the communication between two parties, rather than being actually involved in the performance or the booking of it.
So obviously a key consideration for you in this business is trying to save people time and money. Looking at the macroeconomic conditions of where we're at today, is it a consideration for you to look ahead and think what's going to happen if businesses and people who are trying to book talent have to tighten their belts and stop booking talent altogether, or if they have less money to spend on that? How will that affect acta?
Well, I mean, that happened deliberately during the GFC. I mean, we ran, I've been running a curation business that is basically pushing all its leads into acta now. But we ran that very successful curation organisation for 20 years, and bookings fell off a cliff.
Right. So you've seen this before?
I've seen it before, but that was enforced on the community. That was enforced commercially on everybody. I mean, all the corporations all over the world just got rid of fringe benefits. The first fringe benefit was any type of product launch or any type of staff Christmas party or any type of pop-up. It all went overnight. And then we experienced it nearly a decade later, or it was a bit over, with COVID. And COVID wasn't enforced, like no one is doing anything. I mean, once you introduced, a lockdown and you enforced, limited human contact with each other, events were the very first things that went. Entertainment was the very first thing that went, and it was the last thing to come back.
Yeah.
But in both occasions, what the industry has experienced is an absolute surge of events, both private, charity, government, and corporate. There was stimulus packages with GFC, so that helped. But in terms of COVID, I think people just needed an excuse to have fun again.
Yeah.
And entertainment walks hand in hand with that, So there's always going to be a need for people to have fun at an event, laugh, dance, sometimes cry with a good enough speaker. There needs to be emotion at every gathering of people to make it a successful event. I've always thought of that when I've ever produced events. Emotion always comes from the arts, and that extends to even people sharing their stories on stage. So I don't think it's ever going to go away, and I think it needs to be nurtured and supported. Talent have been exploited far too long, and there's never been a definitive way to eliminate that. And every generation that goes past, people figure out more and more ways to exploit talent. And when talent are unrepresented, for not to have them exploited and then expect them to do all the administrative tasks that go along with it, it's hard. That they should just do what's best, do what God gave them, or hours and hours in the bedroom, practicing should reward them with. I've always felt that acta was born out of necessity, not opportunity, because I felt the pain from all those people that are involved within a booking. So if we support talent and we keep enough of them amongst us, the industry will never die, and they will always be required to bring that emotion to all types of events.
So as a founder, obviously you've been through those trials and tribulations that come with unexpected events that happen throughout the world, the GFC, COVID. Do you have a contingency plan in place for if something unexpected were to happen in the future?
Yeah, I mean, no one saw COVID coming, right?
No.
That was like living in a movie.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big Marvel fan, so I I literally, align it, to that. But look, GFC was a bubble that burst economically that I guess could be sort of conceived. COVID was almost like sci-fi.
Right.
Yeah. But I mean, other than aliens landing, I don't really know what else can happen to the industry. I think there will always be an excuse for humans to come together, to celebrate, to laugh, to cry, to raise awareness, to raise money. There will always be a need, and no one wants to feel like they're sort of caught, in a stagnant environment. So I don't want to think about a world where there is no talent and there are no events. I think that would be a very, very boring existence. But in terms of having protocols in place, to sort of help us navigate another GFC or another COVID, I think that the events community did pivot in really smart ways when COVID first hit, in terms of a lot of online events and online engagements between people. You've just got to, if you know the environment is changing, then the participation of the different attendees to that environment also needs to change. So if events go digital, then talent will go digital. A lot of bookings that I was asked and a lot of events that I was asked to curate during COVID were all digital. And it was a whole new world, and it was a whole, we were, the company that we ran for 25 years that basically curated talent, we had 15 staff, massive overheads, curators, producers, logistics departments, accountants, and we did things like as a professional organization, but we were still part of the problem. We were still middlemen. And I had learned how to do that job over 20 years. Speak to the booker, speak to the talent, speak to the booker, speak to the talent, speak to the manager, speak to the booker, create all these documents, book the flights with my logistics person, create a dressing room environment based on whatever the talent wanted, provide them run sheets, worksheets, all of that. Doing it digitally while in pajamas at home was a completely new world. But everyone sort of, moved with the times. So I don't look towards the past. I think we've gone through enough to sort of say enough's enough. Let's just get back to having fun. But I get, we're only concerned about the communication between parties, and I don't think that's ever going to change. I don't think the parties that desire talent in varying different types of events or opportunities are ever going to not want to speak to each other. So as long as we're there to create that opportunity for them to speak, we'll be there.
Absolutely. So you're raising capital at the moment. What do you plan to use the funds for?
Yeah, so I always envisaged acta to be a collaborative industry alliance. That's what I really wanted it to be. I didn't want to raise institutional capital before it was really needed. So I wanted as many people from inside the industry to own acta because it represented everyone in the industry. And up until now, all investment has been internal, from the biggest promoters in Australia to the biggest managers and agents, talent themselves, catering companies, production companies. They are our current investors. But there comes to a point in a company like acta where we've taken things so slowly in purpose, our beta, but also because of COVID, it forced us to develop this. And I think that really helped us in not rushing the platform and not rushing its development. So we took our time, and we were in beta for 3 years.
Wow.
So we've listened to the industry, we've tweaked it, we've evolved it. It's been the best experience because we are definitely the tortoise in the race, and and we love that because, we boast events like the Australian Open, multiple years, like so many municipality events from local government, because there's so much oversight for government taxpayer events that ACTA really gives them that transparency that they've never had before. So, we've been able to slowly, methodically explain this to everybody. Now we want to do it on a much bigger scale. And to do it on a much bigger scale, you need expensive marketing. And on top of that, you also need to hire the people that I mentioned before to approach those varying markets they've identified: advertising, marketing, large-scale corporate events, in-house corporate events, charities, local and federal governments. So that's where the money is going to go. And then also, what I'm really looking forward to is being able to spend a lot more time in development, because development up to a certain level stopped, and there's big things that we want to do, especially with AI curation. That really excites me.
Yeah, it's huge. And I can't wait to see what you're going to achieve post-raise. So thank you so much for coming on the Birchal Podcast.
No, thank you.
It's been amazing to chat to you.
Thanks so much. Really appreciate it. Thank you.